Welcome to today's video. Today I'd like to share with you my February TBR. I have a big old stack of books, so I think I'm just going to get straight into it. A few of these are books I've already started via audiobook from my local library. The first being Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. This was one of my most anticipated books of 2023, and I bought it as soon as it came out, and it's just been sitting on my shelf. I started reading it in January. I tried physically reading it but couldn't get focused, so I started the audiobook. The issue is I was listening to it at night and I kept falling asleep. Not to say that the story is boring, I was just tired. I was going to DNF this for now and try again later, but I thought I'd give it one last go while I've still got the audiobook on loan. I'm probably about a quarter way through and I am enjoying it. I'm getting a little bit confused when different people are mentioned. I think I missed some, character entrances, but the vibes have been good. This book is about Cal, who is the sword catcher for a prince, as in the body double. His one point in life, essentially, is to die for the prince. We're also following Lynn, who is a physician who is a part of a minority group in the city, and the way her path and Cal's path are crossing. I honestly don't really know what's going on, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying both kind of plot lines. I just don't know what's really happening. But I'm hoping to figure that out by the end of the month. The other audiobook that I've started is Bunny by Mona Awad. I started this yesterday, and I think I kind of forgot what the book was about when I started. I just remembered that people said there was kind of a dark academia vibe. I forgot, however, that this is a horror. This book has cults, maybe? I'm barely through, I'm a few chapters in. But the back describes it as a fairy tale horror, so yay. Not what I was expecting while cooking dinner last night. But I am really interested in getting through this book. I love the kind of juxtaposition of the fact that it's a horror and the hot pink cover with the little innocent bunny. But yeah, I'm sure it's all relevant to the story. I have gotten to the point where you know who the bunnies are and everything, but yeah, I would love to finish this month. There are 6 more books on this TBR. This is definitely a stretch TBR. I don't really ever read 6 books in a month, but I think the next 2 might have been on my January TBR and I just didn't get to them. The first being This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mokhtar and Max Gladstone. I've only heard good things about this book. It's been on my TBR forever. I finally got my hands on a physical copy and now I need to actually read it. I might be buddy reading this at some point. That's why I didn't read it in January. We agreed to a buddy read and then just never talked about it again. If you're seeing this, we need to organize that, or we just won't do it and we'll read it individually. But yeah, I want to read this book. All I know about this book is that there are 2 characters, red and blue, and they're time travelers, and maybe it's sapphic. That's all I know, but it's short and apparently very lyrical, and so I want to read it. The other book that may have been on my January TBR, but also may not have been, is Pride and Prejudice and the City by Rachel Lippincott. I'm really doing bad at pronouncing names today, my apologies. This book is a Pride and Prejudice retelling where a 17-year-old girl from modern times gets transported into the Regency period. I don't actually know the story of Pride and Prejudice. I've heard of it, obviously, it's referenced all the time. I've never watched a Pride and Prejudice movie or read the book. And I feel like a bad reader for that. I feel like the girlies love Pride and Prejudice. They love Jane Austen, and I just have never interacted with any Austen, but maybe this will be the gateway. I'm really confused about the time travel part of it. I can get on board with, yes, something has happened, she is shot back in time, but what happens to the romance? Do they both come back? Does she decide to stay? What happens? I want answers, and so I'm gonna read this book. This next book was one that I actually didn't think I wanted to read anytime soon, but I've been really wanting easy romance lately, and so I scanned my shelves and saw this and was like, that'll do. And that is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I used to love some of Ashley Poston's previous books. They're up here, the Geekerella series or the Once Upon a Con series. I tried to reread it recently and it just wasn't hitting the same, but I think that's because a lot of the references have kind of dated it. I think the writing itself was fine, so I'm interested in reading this. This is, I'm assuming, a romance, but the guy lives in the past. I don't fully understand that, which is why I'm gonna read it, because I want to know what is going on. I originally thought this was about like an established couple who had some problems. I thought that's what 7 Year Slip was, like 7 years into a relationship, problems come up. Apparently not. I have no idea what this book is about. I bought this on a whim because I liked the author. I just realized I need to add a book to this TBR. I kind of told myself that every month I would put a classic on my TBR even if I didn't read it, so let me quickly find one and then we'll continue with the rest of the books. I actually counted this morning. I own 32 classics that I've never read and 2 that I have, and I read them for school, so whoops. See, part of me wants to be ambitious and be like, let's read 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but also, no. I'm going with what to me feels like a safe choice. I started reading this book years ago, and so I guess I'm just gonna try and continue it, and that is Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. This copy is actually really beautiful. It is missing its dust jacket. I'm assuming it had one. I picked it up at an op shop years ago, but it's so pretty. It also has a few illustrations sprinkled throughout. Let me find one of the good ones. So it's just a good bit of fun. But yeah, I think maybe I could get to it. I don't think I'd finish it this month, but I might get a few pages through. I'm just realizing I think this next book was also on my January TBR. I didn't even try to read it this month. But that is In These Hallowed Halls, a Dark Academia anthology. I mentioned this in my previous TBR. I really enjoy anthologies because I can feel like I am finishing something even when I'm only reading a short story. I picked this up because M.L. Rio has a story in it, and If We Were Villains was one of my favourite books of last year. I love a good bit of dark academia. I'm excited to give this a go. I originally planned on this being my like nighttime reading, go to bed, read a short story, cool. But instead I've just been like watching so much TV. I watched a season of Bake Off and had just like the best time ever, and now I'm rewatching 911, which is definitely a choice. The early seasons of that show make me feel crazy. Anyway, there are 2 books left. These have both been on my shelf for a few years now, and they are both way thicker than I thought they were, so whoops. Starting with The Atlas 6 by Oliver Blake. I picked this up because it was just like constantly being talked about online. I still don't really know what it's about. I know there's some kind of like competition or something. I've heard it's got dark academia vibes. I don't know if it actually does or if it's just kind of dark and so people call it dark academia. But it does have a pretty cover, and my library has the audiobook of the 2nd and 3rd books in this series, not the first. So I'd like to read the physical first copy because that's the one I own, and then get the audiobooks from the library of the rest of them if I choose to continue this series. And the last book I've got is one that I added to this TBR because I want to read more Australian stories, both Australian authors and stories actually set in Australia, and so I'd also like to read Dark Rise by C.S. Packet. I've been seeing this book online constantly. It is very big, but I think part of that is the margins. It makes it look a lot bigger than it is. This is by an Australian author. I've not read anything by this author, but I'm pretty sure they wrote the Captive Prince series. I don't know if it's any good. I've not read it. I just know it's by the same person. There is a map in the front, which if you know me, you know, I love a good map. This is actually like wonderfully intricate, like old maps. The blurb confused me a lot because it said it was in London, but it also said it was in a secret world, but I don't know if that's like a secret world within our world or if it's like a physical different place. So the map is of London, so maybe it's set in the real world, but I guess I'll find out. So yes, that is the stack of books I'd like to read this month. I don't think I'm going to read all of them. February is my birthday month, and last year I spent my entire birthday reading. I don't know if I'm going to do that this year, but I think there are some good choices in here for a good all-day sit-down read. So those are the books I'd like to read in February. Have you read any of them? Which one do you recommend I read first? If you're familiar with any books by Australian authors or set in Australia, send them my way. I'd love to read some more of them. If you liked this video, you can give it a thumbs up, you can subscribe. I upload every week, and I will see you next time. Bye. Don't tell me that I look like a waitress or a maid. Trust me, people have made me aware of it. I love this outfit. I just look like I'm here to clean your house, and that's fine.